Ballads of the Squire, Volume 1. Ballads that have been passed down since the aristocratic period and are said to come from Hagenvinder, the Dawn Knight himself. They tell of Hagenvinder's days as a knight squire. Down every street in Mondstadt have I strolled. The air was filled with the stench of misery and the buzz of revelry. I saw the most arrogant of aristocrats, and I saw the most pitiful of the impoverished. At night these streets are spider webs, some here to feast, others their eternal prey. I hear a jangling in the night, and I know it is the chains that fetter the souls of the oppressed. I patrol the streets of Mondstadt at night time, where my peers and superiors would once declare, "We are the starlit knights, lift thy heads and bear witness, for we who raise our flag in the splendor of starlight are the true protectors of Mondstadt." But not once have I lifted my head to the stars or gazed at our flag, for I cannot shift my focus from the filthy street corners. Destitute peddlers sweep in silence, aging soldiers grimace in pain. In the deathly stillness of night, a young girl, rejected by the aristocracy, pleads for Barbados' mercy. The sighing of mournful winds rattles the cathedral gate, carrying within them the grief of the oppressed. They assault splendid palatial walls. Each mother's call, each infant's cry, enough to dent the hardest of shields, enough to shatter the sharpest of swords. Sounds of sorrow send shivers down my spine, but in the palace and in the castle, though the wind blows the same over holy ground, they are but the size of ants to the ears of men. Volume 2. Ballads that have been passed down since the aristocratic period and are said to have come from Ragvinder the Dawn Knight himself. They tell of Ragvinder's friendship with a sword dancer. One night, at the crack of dawn, a dancer whose sword was her song set foot in Mondstadt. Though clad in chains with cuffed hands and fettered feet, in her silence lay a song. It was a song of freedom, a song of a brighter dawn beyond the walls, a joyous ballad sung without reservation by a people unrestrained. She was the dawn light of the wondrous troop, but she spelled eternal midnight for the aristocracy. I once asked her, "Why do you come to overthrow our aristocrats? Do you not know that they are the first among us? Wherefore do you place their lives on a pedestal?" Came her voice, like a fresh breeze. "If you claim to know the wind as your companion, then did you not once know freedom too?" To her lonesome listeners she told a tale of our rulers' better ancestors who held divine power, a tale of angels, gods, and vile dragons, a tale of the deities and peoples of the land. Each myth and legend she turned to song, and the wind carried the song to all corners of the land. In the aristocrat's arena, her sword sang once more, her final masterpiece, but it stopped short of perfection. A nameless knight retrieved her sword from the blood-soaked battlefield and buried it where the gentle winds meet in communion. Breeze Amidst the Forest, Volume 1. A collection of Mondstadt ballads recorded, compiled, and arranged by scholars centuries ago. Ballad selection excerpt. Breeze Amidst the Forest and Breeze Upon the Lake constitute a 2-volume collection of narrative poems. The compilation is the result of the tireless work of scholars who have recorded and arranged countless songs sung by Mondstadt's bards. Bards often elaborate or fabricate history to draw in an audience and earn a few extra mora. Hence, most of their works have extremely low credibility. What has allowed the songs to remain popular to this day and to stand the test of the thousand winds of time is the threads of spectacular imagination and ingenious rhetoric that have been woven into them. What to be sung hails from ancient times. The gods walked among us in their prime. The poet, who had finished recounting the tales of the ruins in Vanessa, began to tell the story of the wind dragon. He began to sing. The story to be told hails from ancient times, when the gods walked among us in their prime. The dragon graced by Anemo was born in the high heavens in that age of wonders. Typically, when life arises from the elements, it either descends and becomes a slime or ascends and becomes a crystal fly. Rarely does this process give rise to dangerous elemental monsters. Elemental dragons are rarely seen and have the powers to match the gods of old. He slowly descended and inspected everything with curious eyes. He landed in a village only for the terrified villagers to throw rocks at him. The dragon could not understand why they cried in fear. He landed in a cemetery only to hear the lament of grieving people. The dragon could not understand what they murmured in sorrow. He landed in an orchard only to be cursed by the furious farmers who lost their trees. The dragon could not understand why they screamed in anger. The world was too complicated for a young dragon. The dragon was bewildered, yet he did not give up. One day, the dragon heard music pouring from the holy lyre Derimel. This was the name of the lyre belonging to the Anemo Archon. Enchanted by the poetry, the wind dragon landed beside the best singer under the skies. People panicked, for the mighty elemental dragons and the great archons that reigned over the earth had never seen eye to eye. "Behold his beauty and benignity," the wind-born bards sang. "But we do not know him," the people replied. What mysterious magic lies behind music and poetry that has the power to mesmerize both dragons and humans alike? I, for one, cannot fathom it. The dragon decided to stay with the bard, for he too wished to be understood by all souls. He learned human speech and the wind-born bard's singing techniques. Later generations regarded him as one of the four winds that watched over and protected Mondstadt. An atrocious sun befell its kingdom, and a luminous pearl lost its glow. Nivea's silk grew dim, and Wheathen gold burned brilliantly no more. So begins another tale that occurred in the lost Caenria kingdom. The Eclipse dynasty had fallen, and disaster spread across the land. The alchemist known as Gold was corrupted by their own greed and ambition and created an army of shadowy monsters with their uncanny powers. Durin, a black serpentine dragon, rose from the sea to cast its shadow over Mondstadt, but it was at this very moment that there was no one to inherit the title of Lionfang Knight. Thus, the Knights of Favonius could not fly their falcon flag. The persistent yet despondent prayers called upon the Archon of Mondstadt, the wind-born bard. The strings of the lyre were strummed once more, and the wind dragon was summoned forth. As Mondstadt's last line of defense, the wind dragon battled the wicked dragon to the death in raging storms. The wind dragon prevailed. He tore open the throat of the wicked dragon at the cost of ingesting its poisonous blood. The blood of the wicked dragon was distorted gold, with the powers to crumble mountains and poison the earth. The wind dragon protected Mondstadt with its life, and his only wish was to be understood by humans. And so he drifted off into a deep slumber. The holy lyre played a sorrowful tune. The holy lyre sang, "Should you awaken, spread your wings and live your life freely. A dragon born to soar the skies, and mortals shall surely grasp your beauty." Volume 2. A supplement to the Breeze Amidst the Forest ballad selection with excerpts from various sources. It tells the story of the Dragon of Mondstadt. An excerpt from an investigation into the cultural customs of the Wind Kingdom, more commonly known as Records of Customs and Culture by Jacob Musk. The wolf of the Night of Boreas, the lion of the Lionfang Night or Dandelion Night, the falcon of the Knights of Favonius, and the wind dragon Dvalin have been long regarded as the four winds that watch over Mondstadt. After the Lionfang Knight liberated Mondstadt, the Knights of Favonius was established, and the Knight of Boreas joined them. The tradition of worshipping the four winds was gradually formed in Mondstadt. However, Dvalin, the ancient wind dragon, predated them all. Approximately 100 years ago, the land was in chaos. Darkness spread, contaminating everything it touched. Barbarians and foul creatures roamed the lands, forcing people to dwell within the city walls. It was an especially difficult time for Mondstadt. The Lion Fang Night was without a suitable heir, and the Knights of Favonius had lost many of its brave men and women during the bitter wars. During the most difficult of times, Durin, the corrupted dragon of immeasurable power, began attacking Mondstadt. The prayers of Mondstadt's people awoke the animal Archon, and his will summoned forth the wind dragon Dvalin. As the last defender of Mondstadt, Dvalin battled Durin with all his might. The result was clear. Durin's remains still lie atop the snowy peaks to the south of Mondstadt, but the story of how the battle ended was lost in time. It is said that Dvalin ripped out Durin's throat, and together they fell from the sky. Durin's body sunk into the snow while Dvalin was summoned by the Anemo Archon and fell into a slumber. People used to believe that Dvalin would awaken whenever Mondstadt faces a new threat, but in these times of peace, the belief of the four winds has gradually eroded and their temples lie all but completely deserted. Citation of unknown origin. By the time the knights fully discovered that the foreign monstrosity named Storm Terror, with which they clashed countless times, was in fact Dvalin of the Four Winds, the enmity that had grown between them and driven them to conflict could not be undone. One can scarcely imagine the betrayal Dvalin must have felt when he awoke after 100 years of slumber, only to find that the people of Mondstadt, whom he had protected with his life, had forsaken him. Thank you for listening. Check the description for more info on where to find my content, and subscribe so you don't miss my videos. Until next time, stay